In for Henrik Larsson, and Moravcik! His first goal for Celtic! Here is Shunsuke Nakamura! Exquisite!
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Celtic Unrestricted View. I'm JP, and I'm joined tonight by just myself and you lovely folks that are in the comments as well. I hope everybody's well. Hope you've all had a lovely weekend. My compadres from the channel are still over in sunny Tenerife at the moment, so therefore you have to just contend yourself with me, unfortunately for yous. But as I said, I hope everybody's well. We've got a wee bit tonight to get through. A wee look at, obviously, different ins and outs of Celtic, what's been going on over the last couple of days, and so on and so on. So as I said, everybody that's tuning in across the platforms with us, a very warm welcome. Hope you've had a lovely weekend. I was extremely busy over the weekend. I was at the Panto last night, and yeah, it was hilarious. It was the Little Mermaid and the King's Theatre, Elaine C. Smith, Gary Mack. If you've got young kids at all, you're looking for anything to do leading up to Christmas and kill a wee Sunday evening or whatever, I would highly recommend going for it. I really would. It was a really good laugh. My wee boy, my wee girl, totally, absolutely loved it. They no stop talking about it all the day. So yeah, tremendous. And I know a lot of other people prefer to go to the one at the Pavilion. But the Little Mermaid, superb, honestly. And that's probably the first time. That's the first time I've ever been in the King's Theatre. So yeah, it was quite a good experience actually. And just seeing their faces, I suppose, makes it all worthwhile when you see the kids enjoying themselves. So yeah, they put on a good show. It's quite funny. As I say, good cast as well. So well worth it, definitely. I'll come to some comments as we always do. Who's joining us tonight in the chat? Well, first up tonight, we've got G-Doc. Good evening, mate. Hope you are well. Hope you had a lovely weekend. There's a wee man there. Probably took him ages to type that with all the sunburn he's got. Evening all. Good evening, Ryan. Hope you're well. And Jem. Evening, JP and the chat. Pusty 1888. Good evening, Trips. Good evening to yourself. Hope you're well. Mark McDonald joining us. Good evening, JP and the chat. Good evening to yourself. There's Big Rabin as well. Hail, big man. Same to you too. Barry Boy 40. Good evening all. You need to change that 40, Barry. Every time you put a comment in, I keep thinking that's Gaza that's commented the show. Bees trout. Very two fish you're holding. But hope you're well, pal. Please forgive me. That name is a bit of a tongue twister. Is it MIRREN Sturton? I do apologise if I've said that wrong. But good evening to yourself. I hope you are well. And yeah, hope you've had a nice weekend as well. Breezy Ice, I am good. Thank you. Yes, I am good. It's let's say it's been a wee bit of a quick weekend, a busy weekend for me, but a quick one at that. So yeah. Big Rab says why we had a Celtic partner or AGM and the baddies won. Oh no, they didn't. Oh no, they didn't. By the way, that could go on forever, that, couldn't it? It's yeah. Breezy Ice. JP, what do you think our club going down the road of the Jamestown Analytics? I've not really got an opinion on it, mate. As I said, it'd be interesting to know the one that we use just now before we start trying to do others. Sheena O'Shea, very good evening. JP, we need 2 strikers in January, but who? Sheena of Cork, there we go. Plunge, very good evening to yourself. Jack Frost, good evening. Our good man Francis, good evening, mate. Hope you're well. Right, folks, I think we'll start off. The lads were on Saturday from Tenerife, and if anybody's looking for that episode, it's in the live section of the YouTube channel. But they've obviously come on and they've had a wee chat about the aftermath of the AGM and everything else. Obviously, I've not been able to have a proper chat. I've been really busy this weekend. I've not really had a look into the aftermath of the AGM. But what I can say from the outside, I wasn't privy to what was going on. I've only seen some videos and stuff. But what I can say is it certainly doesn't look good from the outside. And, for a whole host of reasons. The outcome, to me, isn't a surprise of exactly what happened in the AGM. For me, that wasn't a surprise. That was always on the cards because there was clear animosity before the meeting happened, and nothing properly had been cleared up on any fronts whatsoever. So there was always going to be that room for disruption and motion. I can see different views and different opinions, etc. But like I said, it's very difficult for me to kind of form an opinion. Because I wasn't inside the room, so I never actually seen what happened. But what I will say is it certainly wasn't good, because ideally in an AGM, you're looking for a balance that you can have a bit of a back and forth with. We never seen that. We never got that at all. It came to a close pretty much right away. Due to lots of animosity in the room. There seems to be a lot of anger. There was an inflammatory statement made by Ross Desmond, which obviously then the room erupts from. I seen a video of Peter Lawwell asking for respect within the room. And my annoyance for that would be that there was probably shareholders in the room that probably wanted to find out some answers, get some questions over, and then hear like a bit of a back and forth, and obviously never, they never got that opportunity. I just thought the way it was conducted just wasn't right, and the way it ended also wasn't right. I can understand people, they're having a go at the board, and they've got their own opinions of people within the football club and things going on. But I think one of the messages that came out of that for me was, I did pick up on it, and when Ross Desmond was speaking, he mentions, the word of admittal in terms of mistakes being made. And I've since seen an interview with Michael Nicholson with Jerry McCulloch doing the same thing, that they have admitted to making mistakes. Fundamentally a guy who was part of all this during the summer and to now. He's not at the football club anymore. And I've said it on this channel many a times in Brendan Rodgers. He also is culpable for blame. But ultimately, he's not there to answer. He's now not there at the football club. So he's now left others to now carry that torch. And I feel that that's very unfair. I think now what we need to do is the club are now about to head into a direction with a new permanent manager, and obviously we're going to touch on that as we go tonight. But eventually there needs to be a line drawn in the sand for me. I mean, this is just me personally. For me, there needs to be a line drawn in the sand. Now, an annual general meeting is for both sides to talk about how they feel the club is and where the club are. You know, for the fans to directly blame the board, you know, and then you've got the board coming out and saying their reactions are based on the way they're being treated. You know, I've always said in life, in general, you need to be mindful of how you treat people, regardless of what way it is and what way you're doing it. Because at the end of the day, people have feelings. Now, like I says, I wasn't in that room, so I can't sit here and make things up and say things that happened that maybe didn't. Because I'm not like that. But you have to be able to see the both sides as well. So just say for talking sake, one of the, I was sitting at one of the top table and there was fans shouting profanities and everything that. I would ask a question to anybody. How would you react in a moment? You know, how does people react? And that's the thing. People deal with things differently. People react differently. People have different instincts. People have different reactions. People have different levels of mentality. People have different levels of being able to stay calm in moments, composure. Everybody's different. I don't firmly believe Ross Desmond spoke to the Celtic fans in that way deliberately. I believe in a heated moment, he probably looks back now and regret in terms of some of the things he says. Because if he's, he used a lot of inflammatory words, and ultimately that's going to get anybody's back up. We know that, right? But at the same point as well, the guys who went into that meeting, they went forearmed with a loaded gun. They went into that meeting with a loaded gun in terms of their red cards. And so at some point, there was a plan for that to take place. And that was going to always disrupt that kind of meeting. So it wasn't good. It wasn't a good thing to see. Where do we go from here? Who knows? I don't know. Obviously, the football team is obviously trying to move on. They're trying to bring in a new manager and move things on there. So I understand that, there's certain people saying there's irreparable damage done now between the fans and the board. And I certainly, this is just me again, individually, and I don't speak for any of the lads on this channel, by the way. I certainly don't see where all this kind of fueled anger's coming from. And the way it's been directed at certain individuals. I can't understand how have we even got to this point? What is it people want changed? What is it? What is it that, and what is it they're basing change on? why, what is it we want done? What do we want to see happening? That's what, that's where I want to have a better understanding of. So, in terms of AGM, I think it was, it was not best conducted in the manner and the way it was. Breezy Ice, you have wrote transparency, JP. Do you mean in terms of formats of communication? Because I wouldn't disagree with that. I think there has to be a way that we can do that. But the hatred that's been directed at certain individuals on the Celtic board, would obviously make them think twice about wanting to try and communicate. I understand that might not be the right way to do that, Breezy Ice, but you've got to remember that there's only so many times that, an olive branch can be given out. But there's personal hatred being directed at him. I mean, Peter Lawwell himself, when was it? If somebody in the comments can tell me, but was it something like his car or his house not targeted by a petrol bomb in recent years? I mean, that's just the most bizarre thing I've ever came across in my life. Like, that's nuts. Absolutely mental. I can't really remember. I can only remember an incident happening where, he wasn't home. Yeah, that's what it was, Rab. I knew something was targeted round about his house somewhere. And that's to me, that's taking things to a different stratosphere. It really, really is. And when you do things like that, you've lost all inhibition in a football game, and for me, that's just it's mental. That's mental. But that's how emotional this. That's how deeply emotional this becomes. In terms of myself, and I know the lads on here, we are football men. We love watching the football. We love watching our club do well, and I will never ever get sick of watching Celtic do well and winning and being successful and everything else. Nor do I take it for granted, because I grew up in an era where that wasn't possible. I grew up in an era where Celtic weren't doing it. So yeah, as I say, it's transparency comes under quite a lot in my opinion. And by the way, I'm not disagreeing. I do agree things can be better. I certainly want change in, there's certain things I want to see changed around the football club. I would love to see, when we're profiling players, I would love us to see, instead of paying between the 2 and the 5 million mark for a player, why can't we go and push the boat out and go between 6 to 8 million quid? And it's that kind of slightly higher profile of player that you're bringing to the club, rather than lads that, they might take a wee while to settle. There's no guarantee with any signing, by the way, but I would like that to change, the way that we profile players. Somebody mentioned earlier about the data analytics. I would love to know what we work from just now. I'd love to get a better insight in the way that we do things just now. I'm not privy to that. I don't know the way they work. I know people are talking about this Jamestown and Tony Bloom, because he's up here now with Hearts and he's done the same with Brighton. Royal Union, St Gillan have had great success in the way that they do and recruit players, and and look after players, etc. So, yeah, as I say, it's, you know, I want to. I would love to have an in-depth look to see what it is we're doing in that department. Another change I would love to see, which is obviously happening behind the scenes, but again, it'll take a bit of time, is the youth setup. So I would like to see Celtic's youth improving in terms of how many players can we get into the first team. Instead of maybe having to go and buy these players, you know, bring back the days of bringing through a McGeady or a Sean Maloney or a guys that can come in and help the team be successful. Yeah, I mean, well, this is the thing. I mean, I've always said this: whenever you when you start to take matters into your own hands, you then start to go over a territory that becomes very dangerous. DM McDonald, and for me, I'm not on board with that. I'm not on board with the direct hatred. I don't want people sacked. I don't want people to lose their jobs. I don't want to see that happening. But, you know, a step in the right direction is that, you know, in any way, shape or form that they have done it, the words have been said live in the camera that there's mistakes being made. There is clear frustrations. And, you know, yeah, it's you know, they are human at the end of the day. They are definitely human. It's human error. It's only, you know, I see we have a tourist in the comments tonight. It's nice he is to finally show up. We've only been waiting for how long? Every year we hear about he's coming and we're still waiting. It's like the biggest, longest erotic movie you can ever think of in your life. And the coming part doesn't happen, I'm afraid. So, aye. Keep trying. Keep praying. Keep believing, as the monkeys always used to say. And maybe one day you'll be a big team. But no, listen, when it comes to personal abuse on anybody or any individual, like, I can't be on board with that. It's no me. I love football. I love being a Celtic fan. I love going to watch Celtic play. But the buck stops here with me. You know, it doesn't. I don't take it that far that, you know, Celtic don't ruin my day if they lose a game. It doesn't come into my world at all. I don't become. People think I'm mental. Some of them, I've got Rangers fans, mates, who think I'm absolutely Looney Tunes, to say the least. It's you know, they still don't believe me when I say that, you know, if Celtic lose a game, I don't get upset, I don't get annoyed. The boys on here, they're bewildered, they're perplexed by it. When Celtic win, I love it. I love all the, you know, the ecstasy it gives you, everything. But I don't get too carried away. And I go back, I keep going back to it, and I keep saying it all the time. I feel like a broken down record. It's because of the upbringing I've had. It's because of what I grew up watching. And yeah, as I say, I mean, it's you need to enjoy what you have, and don't wish your life away for more, or don't wish your life away for less, or you need to enjoy what you've got in the moment. Don't start looking too far ahead, because, you know, it's fairy tale stuff. You know, what Celtic have done as a club is fairy tale stuff. Now, I forever hear about the Celtic hierarchy, and all I hear just now is about them doing a bad job, and they're not doing this, and they're not doing that, and they're not doing this, and they're not doing that. Can someone tell me just now, is somebody with me here, can someone tell me just now, why does nobody talk about what they do good? Why does that not get mentioned? It gets overlooked constantly. And I'm talking about modern day as well. It gets overlooked constantly. I don't understand why they don't get a mention. It's mental. Ryan, I would have just left it, mate. I really would have left it, buddy, for the comedy factor alone. Definitely, I would have just left him put, mate. Yeah, maybe again, maybe that's just how I'm feeling personally. Maybe it's just me. I just feel as if a lot gets looked into what goes wrong, or no. See, that's no. See, and I get what you're saying, Pegleg, right? And just because you have the best resources and everything else doesn't mean to say, mate, that you should just be gifted that in a bag. Here you go, son, there's a gift bag for you. Well done, you've done everything. That's not how that works. That still takes a lot of hard work and dedication to get you to that point. Bearing in mind, there was a point in time where Celtic couldn't win anything. They weren't winning anything. So, yeah, I mean, as I say, Rab, good man. Safe journey, pal. Hope you're well. Just because Celtic have the best of everything, and I can get people's thoughts there, that Celtic should be winning everything. No, that's not the case. We cannot forget there's a massive rivalry involved with us. Massive rivalry. We share a city with a giant, the same as ourselves. Now, only because of mismanagement and poor management, that rivalry have not been on par. But that's not down to us. That's not our fault. So they're now chasing their tail. They're chasing their tail because of the mismanagement. We're not chasing our tail. Have we made mistakes? 100% we've made mistakes. But we cannot get away from the rivalry. The bread and butter will always be there. We need to be better than Rangers. That's the mantra. That's got to be the mantra. It's got to be. We share a city with them. We cannot escape that mindset, that thought. We just can't get by it. Now, if it comes to European football, then that's a different conversation. But again, there has to be a realism in where we are in the food chain. And there will be bumps on the road. We're a Scottish team-based club trying to compete in Europe. Now, before anybody comes at me and says, well, Rangers have done this in the Europa League and Rangers have done that in the Europa League, where Celtic fans want Celtic to be is in the Champions League. No, Kaiser, but they've never been our rivals, mate. Fundamentally, mate, they've never been our rivals. They've never been there. but the blue half have and always been there. So that's my point. The mantra is Partick Thistle are not in the same league physically as Celtic also. And I don't mean that, I'm not trying to be funny there. I just mean that they're not in the same division as Celtic in the table. Whereas the team that we share the city with are. But they're also a massive, they've got a massive fan base, the same as us. So when you look at that in a bigger picture, you need to have that mindset. Well, that's the thing, Pegleg, right? And I totally agree with you. Listen, I don't think that's far-fetched at all. I really don't. I don't think that's pushing the boat out too far. I don't think that's in the land of make-believe. I agree with you. Fundamentally, I agree with you, mate. But we've been in the Champions League. It's not like, I mean, I could see the point if we've not been there. We have been there. Prior to this season, we played in it for 3 years in a row. With a couple of seasons in it under Big Ange as well. And then obviously under Brendan Rodgers with 2 seasons at it. So we actually got to the knockout phase of it last season as well. So I understand our European record is really bad and really, really abysmal at times. But we have had some good things along the way. But again, and I'll go back to it, we're always going to take hits in there because of the league we play in. That's the reality. That's the challenge for any aspiring coach coming to Celtic. That's the biggest challenge. How do we get a group of players together? So when we start talking about football recruitment, folks, that's what I've mentioned even on here before. Celtic have been very crafty with the way they've done it. You know, they've tapped into markets that other teams maybe are not getting near or maybe not get enough data. And again, a big thank you to Ange Postecoglou for that, because he was able to open up a door that we were unaware of as a fan base. And that's been very successful for us. Another loophole there was, you know, we've been in the MLS. We've brought players for MLS. Alistair Johnson came from there. So we've tapped into markets that pretty much a lot of teams don't go near. And that's been amazing through the last number of years for us. I get the summer window, right? That was a massive disappointment, right? And the summer window was a massive missed opportunity. And it was ultimately a sore one. And there was decisions made in the summer window that, in my opinion, weren't the best for the football club, both by the manager and by the footballing recruitment department, the money men as well. But materialised from that into now, you can see that there was clear animosity with the Celtic moneymen and the previous manager. Now, people talk about, you know, Brendan, as much as Brendan Rodgers, in my opinion, was an elite football manager. So we saw a side to Brendan yet again for the second time as the Celtic manager, with a head that was clouded by, again, a relationship that had broken down behind the scenes with his peers, his bosses, his gaffers, whatever else you mentioned, and a relationship that he's probably lost now with his players. JP, do you think the board didn't back Rodgers in the summer market because he was avoiding talking about a new deal? Well, I believe a part of it was down to that. Yes, I believe a part of it was down to that. Ryan's a great believer on the channel, folks, that obviously if that happens, then detriment to that shouldn't be the football club needs to stand still for that to go through. Brendan, in my opinion, had obviously his own issues and his own agenda there. But Brendan manifested quite a lot of what happened. He manifested it himself. He orchestrated a lot of this. He tried to orchestrate it so that the fans would ultimately turn against the hierarchy. This is just my opinion, by the way. I think Brendan tried to get the fans to turn on the hierarchy because Brendan knew the hierarchy weren't going to give him what he wanted. And Breezy Ice, you put in the comments about the new contract. I believe Brendan was humming and hawing about a new contract. I believe he wasn't giving his full committal. And there's a part of the hierarchy have probably says to him, listen, we're not going to throw all sorts of, we're not going to give you a chunk of money to go and throw at the team and do this and do that. And yeah, as I said, aye, that is what it is. Joe Curran, hi JP, I owe you a massive thank you for a great night for the good lady. You're very welcome, Joe. As I said to your lovely daughters, mate, it was a total honour spending the time with you as well. And I'm glad she enjoyed herself. She certainly seemed as if she did. And yeah, I was good. I could obviously help you out in a moment that you needed a bit of help. But no, it was a good night all round, mate. Really was. What was I touching on there? Yeah, so the hierarchy made a decision best, and this is where I see them, right? Because I don't think they rush into anything, the Celtic board. Now, at times, it can be frustrating as a fan because you're looking at that and you're going, no, they're taking ages, they're not getting this done, they should be doing this, they should be doing. We're all the same, we're all probably anxious at, we want things done. But does anybody here in the comments, and I've asked a few of my Celtic fans that obviously don't comment in on this, my mates and stuff, and I've said to them, does anybody actually think that these guys, like the ones I've mentioned, Michael Nicholson, Chris Mackay, Peter Lawwell, is there anyone out there that actually thinks that there's somebody in amongst that group that are really trying to hinder Celtic, that are trying to do damage to the football club? Is it a wide belief that is the case? I can't buy that narrative, folks, if that's the case. I just cannot buy that narrative. When they make a decision, they take their time, they don't rush into things. And they don't get hurried into things, they don't get told what to do, they don't get, bullied into it if it's a better way of doing it. They do it on their own terms. Because, yeah, as I say, in my opinion, they try and do everything to help the football club. Yes, they get things wrong. They're never going to get everything right, by the way. They are going to get things wrong. By the way, they'll get things wrong as we go down the line. Not every club gets everything bang on. It just doesn't happen in reality. So I can't, for the life of me, think that there's anybody in that room that, you know, that they're deliberately setting out to hinder Celtic moving forward as a football club. They deliberately crashed the AGM so not to answer difficult questions, JP. Well, that's what I was saying at the beginning. Typhoon, the AGM meeting was brought to a halt just as soon as it started. But that was due to the room just became chaos, you know. Prior to, I mean, obviously Peter Lawwell brought that to an end and done what he done. But my understanding is the room became chaos, and you can't have a balance in a situation like that. You just can't. There is no way a balance can be had in a kind of moment when there's just, thunder going on. It's never going to happen. It won't happen. So Estepona boy, cheap option. JP Nonsi will get crucified if he loses a couple of games, especially the derby. I have to disagree, I'm afraid. I have to disagree. If you go and obviously do a bit of due diligence into Nonsi, this guy's no a novice. He's no an idiot. He's certainly not coming here to, hold the jackets or, Big Ange. Big Ange took a couple of games to get going as well. But there was a clear identity from Big Ange right for the beginning. I don't think this is going to be a cheap option, especially when you're bringing a guy. I believe there's 4 or 5 members of his staff coming with him. Don't imagine that's going to be cheap. 4 years as a manager, but he's also, he's not just a manager, as in you threw that out there like he's just a manager. He's actually won titles. He's won trophies in the MLS, and he's won titles in Canada. He was voted the best manager in the MLS in 2024. Now, I don't know everything about him, but Jonathan Burns, Tommy Burns' son, is coming on this channel this coming Wednesday evening to give us the kind of perfect lowdown on him, because obviously he's more closer to home. He's over in the MLS working as a coach and doing things over there, so obviously he knows a lot more about Wilfred Nonsi. His opinion of Wilfred Nonsi is he's top. That was what he's told us prior to Wednesday's chat. Now, take for that what you will. But, it's, when someone like that is saying somebody's top, then there's got to be something definitely about it. I don't think it'll be a cheap option, that's for sure, because you have to pay him and 4 or 5 of his members of staff. It's coming for Columbus Crew with him. So that'll cost money. That'll not be cheap. Definitely not. I love his honesty, if I'm being honest. I've seen a couple of his interviews, and the way that he is, Yeah, you can tell the way this guy handles himself. He's not just an umpty. He's not coming here to make up numbers or, like I say, hod people's jackets. That's no happening. But yeah, obviously, it's been announced tonight that the club are in advanced talks with Wilfred Nonce with Columbus Crew. PLZ Soccer, a good friend, Peter Martin, he put out on today, I think it was earlier on today's podcast, that it's the 1st of December. He's actually going to start with us. I think obviously we'll get this week out the way, and then there might be an announcement this week, but he takes over his first league game at Celtic Parks, the game against Dundee. And I quite like Big Ruffy's comment to him, and he replied to Peter Martin by saying, is that the one he's picked? But, yeah. But, again, you know, he's coming in to a group that's depleted in numbers. He's coming into a group that's, you know, all this is going on behind the scenes between the... all this is going on behind the scenes between the fans, the hierarchy. He's coming into in the midst of all this, you know. This will test him as a character as well, by the way. This will be a big test for him alone before he's even judged doing the job as a football manager. I don't know. That's the thing. When you look into, you know, what Peter Martin was saying about 4 or 5 of them coming with him, where does that find again, you would ask a question, where would that then find a role for Fozzie? Was Fozzie brought in on a temporary basis just to help Martin O'Neill out with the lads? We'll not know, but I'm going to hazard a guess and say maybe yes, because where would he, you know, where's he going to fit in? And again, without being rude or sounding ignorant just now, without knowing the real answer, does Wilfred Nonce know who Mark Fotheringham is in the football world? I'm not sure. I wouldn't know. I know the connections there with Paul Tilsdale, because Paul worked with Ampadu, which is Nonce's number 2. So it's one of those ones. It's we're going to need to wait and see. But if you're talking about a 4 and 5 man team coming with him, I would hazard a guess and say probably not. I would imagine they'll all move on. And it'll again, it's going to depend on what happens with Stevie Woods as well. Is he going to move on? Is he going to stay? Is he, you know, is he at an age now where he might look to move on himself? 4 or 5 people will is a big change. You know, it's a lot of them have left already. If you look at, you know, Brendan left, John Kennedy left, Adam Sadler, Glenn Driscoll, sorry. They've all left the football club. You probably look, Steve McManus, that might go back down to the youth setup. Sean Maloney might go back to the pathway manager. So I would imagine maybe even Gavin Strachan will need to move on, by the way. So you're looking there, where did he go? Where did he fit in to the next one? You know, it's hard to see it. It's really hard to see whether Fozzie stays or not. But we'll just need to wait and see. What do you think? Listen, I'm really excited about the appointment. I really think I've done a lot of due diligence on Wilfred Nonce some time ago when we were even linked with him. I started to do a bit of work on him then, because that's the type of manager I envisaged Celtic going and getting. I didn't think it was going to be a you know, the lad for Bodo, or, you know, the boy McKenna at Ipswich, or, in my opinion, they were always just a pipe dream that was drawn up by the media and just driven by the media. No, Craig Bellamy, I don't even think he was ever considered for it. You know, I've got to be honest. He certainly said it himself. He'd never had any conversations with anyone. Robbie Keane, again, he was flattered to be linked with it, but very quickly he started to distance himself from it. So I think this guy's been the top target from what I'm hearing. And I think he's been the number one target, believe it or not. Now, that might come as a surprise to most, because a lot of people must have thought that, you know, it was going to be Kazetso Knutsen from Bodo Glimt. Everybody thought it was going to be him. There was a statement made by Gordon Strachan through the media. Celtic are going to wait to December to bring in the next manager. And, yeah, so it's... When I seen his name linked, right away that it just caught my attention. And that's the type, because that's what Celtic do. They think outside the box, in my opinion, in situations like that. And they go and get managers who play a way that we want to play. When you look through the list of managers that Celtic have been linked with, but I mean properly linked with, guys that have been, you know, properly in the frame and maybe even had a chat or two with the club, like Eddie Howe, Ange Postecoglou. We've had Brendan Rodgers twice. You know, you look at other managers, Enzo Mariesca, through the connections with the City Group, had chats with Celtic, and he's obviously done very well at Chelsea. The boy Areola, who's in at Bournemouth, who replaced Gary O'Neill. Again, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Some of these guys, you know, they play a certain brand of football. And that's where I keep coming back to, folks. That's why we become an attractive commodity, because of the football model we have. Now, I understand that needs modernising, and I'm not sitting here saying it doesn't. But for me, it doesn't need radicalised. It doesn't need massive changes to it. We've got a great thing in place already for an astute coach type manager to come in and really identify what it is he's looking for, what it is he wants to do, and quickly start to get things moving. Things are already in place. You know, there's similarities to Celtic, to the Columbus Crew team that Wilfred Nancy coached. You know, the way he was able to get them playing at a high intensity, the side traps, the turnovers. Celtic have got individuals in their team that can play that style of football. Of course, he's going to bring players. Of course, he'll change things. He'll move players on, or players will naturally move on anyway. But that's the excitement part of it. JP, can you see a way back for this board, the fans, the Green Brigade, all be back on the same side and be anti-establishment together instead of the board seeing themselves as the establishment? Well, Kaiser, I'll be honest, right? The way I see things, the board feel, this is my take on this, right? That this is me speaking individually. This is how I see this, right? The board feel as if everyone hates them right now. That's probably the way they feel in terms of the Celtic fan base. They probably feel a lot hate them, right? But like I says, mate, anybody sitting at that top table on Friday, when you start to hear the heckles and people shouting at you and people doing, you know, it's like anybody else in life, mate. If someone is directing hatred or any sort of raw emotion towards you in a negative way, how do you react as an individual? Not everyone can stay composed. Not everybody can stay, can stay within themselves. Certain people have that sleeping bear in them that when it wakens up, all hell breaks loose, So it must be difficult, mate, in certain scenarios. But right now, the Celtic board feel as if everybody hates them. They're probably wanting to try and rectify mistakes that were made, that were done through the last transfer window. But again, a big toxic problem, in my opinion, has left the building. The previous manager. He was a big part of the issue and manifested a lot of the fans. He manifested the way the fans have, telling us things. Brendan gaslighted the supporters many a times, Kaiser, just over that period, that window there. And really tampered with the mindset of certain individuals around the football club. And it orchestrated the way it did, in terms of the Green Brigade and the North Curve and that, obviously that's a separate issue. That's an issue that I don't even know enough about, guys, to sit here and make comment. All I know is the place is tremendous when they're making noise and they bring a great atmosphere. But they do have their own attentions to deal with when they're not in the stadium or they're on their, if they're getting ready to go to games, etc. They do have that to contend with as well. And that's a separate matter. And then obviously they have their own dealings with the football club separately, away from the footballing side of things, guys. So who knows, mate? Who knows what's going to happen? If I knew that, then I'd be giving you all a lottery numbers this week. But what I can say is the Celtics are a unique club that way. That what will happen is the football team will start having success, and all of this will start to then bed itself back together, and that's usually what happens. These things normally find a way to be resolved, but with these ones, who knows? The relationship might be that frayed that it can never be repaired, or I really hope that's not the case, personally. But again, mate, I'm just a Celtic fan sitting here on a podcast giving my opinions on what I think's maybe going to happen, or what I could see happening. But that being said, there is that small matter of we do still have a football team trying to get results. Another thing I want to touch on is since Martin O'Neill came in his interim charge, we were 9 points behind Hearts. We've now gained 5 points on Hearts by putting pressure on them, because Martin O'Neill's won 4 domestic games out of 4. The game that he lost was a game to a flying Midtjylland side who are sitting top of the Europa group. So we've certainly, because certainly on this channel a couple of weeks ago, as you all remember, man, like I says, the way Hearts are getting talked about, it's like Celtic were going to be playing Real Madrid. I know they beat us 3-1, but again, decisions were made that day, by a manager who was really clouded in his judgment. A manager who, by that point, had lost the dressing room, in my opinion. I think a lot of the players must have lost a bit of respect for Brendan at that point, especially when he named them Honda Civics. Barcelona, I quite like that one, mate. Aye, Scott, I do. I like that one, Barcelona. Well, that's the thing about it, mate. I mean, I know we've had a long-standing joke on here about that, but that's the way the whole media and everybody, they've went through the process to kind of big this up as if it's something special. This is something that we've seen before. We've seen this under George Burley. We've seen an Aberdeen side last season do the exact same thing, and then they crumbled. Lots of people, because of the way Celtic's transfer window ended and the way Celtic never got to the Champions League, and well, there you go. I mean, again, there you go. Aberdeen lasted longer. So, but I mean, that's the only way. That's the only way you can be. There's no point in. You can't, in my opinion, you can't look at things from a one-sided view and only have that one-sided view. You have to be broad-minded when you look at things. If you're going to give criticism, you need to know why you're giving that criticism and what it's for. You can't just, that sounds good, so I'm just going to say that, And it's the same when you're giving praise. You need to know why you're giving praise and what it's for. So, yeah, level. I mean, by the way, can I have that sent to me in writing so that I can show my missus? I think she'd disagree with you. But, no, mate, I'm definitely not. Nope, this is... all this is electrolytes and water. That's all that is. That's definitely... I didn't even think that was still a thing, Frosty Jack, is it? I mean, comments, folk in the comments, I mean, no, I don't want to... Listen, I don't want you sticking yourself in anything, but can somebody tell me if Frosty Jack's still a thing? I remember it was still a thing when I was younger. But certainly not now. Mushy brew, Jesus. No, there's a few magical things happening on this channel, guys. I mean, none of them are mushies, mate. I'll tell you that right now. I can assure you that. But no, it's just electrolytes. That's all that is, and water. That's it. I know it probably looks a funny colour to you, but it's actually strawberry and lime. That's what it tastes of. Strawberry and lime. It's really tasty. It's nice, refreshing, and it's freezing cold as well, so it's kind of half a battle. Frosty Jack. That's definitely a flash for the past, that one. Actually, I think I had maybe 3 sips of that in total. That would bring a tear to a glass eye, that stuff, man. I just remember the taste of it, man. It was horrible. Aye, kind of, James. Like I say, it's electrolytes, mate. If you know what electrolytes are, you'll know what I mean, mate. Aye, as I say, but it's tasty. As I say, it's strawberry and lime, so it's nice. Soda Stream, aye, remember that, Anton? Aye, Soda Stream. That's a thing of the past as well, Soda Stream. I know you can still get that. There was a wee place last Christmas opened up temporarily for the festive period, and they opened up the stall in the Forge in Parkhead. And I was heading through the Fords one day to go to one of the games, and aye, there it is. The guy was selling it. It was like £3 a tin or something. It was extortionate. But yeah, that was still a thing. Soda Stream. Wow, that's a definite flashback, that one as well. But yeah, touching on the game, I've not even got to him. I know I'm 6 minutes in and I've not even got to the game yet. Again, wow. Like, a game that, really difficult tie for us to go to St Mirren, 8 o'clock Saturday night. We never played well at all by any means. We were probably the polar opposite of playing well, actually. And that's fine again. These things, these things are never easy. And St Mirren are a very hard team to play at the best of times. We've had a real tough time with that, even at Celtic Park the last couple of times we've played them. So it was always going to be a tough game. Celtic were really, really flat. I mean, we were so flat across the pitch. I mean, I can't even say it was a teammate, the wrong team he picked, or it was just really, really flat throughout. It's hard to put your finger on it. But again, it's something, this is where the craziness comes in for folk probably watching me here. Again, I wasn't annoyed. I don't get annoyed at these things. These things don't bother me. But I'll come to that one in a second, Ryan. That comment you've just put in, mate. It's something I touched on just a short period of time ago. But no, when Celtic don't play well, I don't get annoyed. I understand football. I understand there's going to be games in the season where you're going to get games where players kind of kick their arse and they can't do this, they can't do that. And then there'll be games where we'll go and annihilate somebody 5, 6, 7, nothing. There'll be a game where that'll come along as well. But I've always said it, folks, even on here, and more so than anything this season. I said to you a while ago, I think it was Ryan I was on me. It might have been young Daniel, actually, as well. I spoke to Barry Bannon about this as well, and I says, listen, lads, I'm up for really rolling my sleeves up here and having a fight this season. See if we need to battle for this title, then aye, let's go for it. I'm up for that, folks. I don't mind that at all. You cannot run away with the title every season. You're not going to run away. You're not going to blitz teams every week. You're not going to blitz results every week. You're not going to just stroll through teams every week. It's just not possible. It's just not going to happen. You need to understand that first and foremost. And if you don't, then, like I've said, when these things do come around, your come down is going to be massive. So, aye, you need to know that you can't just blitz through teams. As much as Celtic are the best side and we're doing this, it's just not going to happen. There will be games where we don't play well. There will be games where we have to battle. There will be games where we have to win an ugly way. But we didn't win an ugly way on Saturday, in my opinion. No, with that goal, man. I mean, that goal, folks, was absolutely unbelievable. You talk about, first and foremost, right? And this is something I've noticed there the last wee bit, because we have been in wee bits of trouble here and there. Callum McGregor's really stepped up and been counted. He's really, really took the bull by the horns, and he's really showed his leadership. And I've always said it on the channel, I've always said it speaking to my friends, and even speaking to my dad. When you have guys like that in your team, guys who are winners, that's more than you'll ever need, folks. Why? Because that's what happens more times than it doesn't. That's what... That's what happens. And the more and more these guys are doubted, the more and more these guys are slandered, the more and more these guys are, abused and everything else, they come up with that. That's what they come up with. Quality players come up with big moments. Massive players come up with massive moments. We saw it during the week with Kieran Tierney. Now, Kieran's come under a bit of criticism because his fitness levels and everything else. Look what he's got in his locker. And look who the goalkeeper was. The Celtic goalkeeper. So, look what he's got in his locker. Massive moments, folks. And that's what we have at our disposal. It's no by chance. It's no by fluke. It's no, people going, we were lucky on Saturday. Probably, we were right. Another game, St Mirren could have had a couple of goals. I totally get that. But reality is that the goal that won you that game, you walk away with 3 points. You're walking away from a ground that it could have potentially have been a banana skin for us. And it could have potentially been a game that, you look at yesterday's result for an example. We closed the gap on Hearts and it put pressure on them. Look what happened yesterday. They went and faltered. Because again, we've got winners in their team. Hearts have got this new group of players and they're doing well for Hearts and they've got Hearts in a better position and Hearts are up the league and Hearts are doing, but they've not won anything. No, they've won the We Beat Celtic Cup. That's all they've won this season. And see, all this that I've spoke about for the last hour and 13 minutes, folks, right? Something else that's went a big miss for me this season is, see this fantastic football club that we all love and we support? We're in another cup final. We've got another cup final day to look forward to. We've got a chance to win another trophy that we're synonymous with doing. I know I've heard for the beginning of the season to now, Celtic are rotten, Celtic are this, Celtic are that, Celtic are this, Celtic are not doing this, Celtic are... And by the way, the game that got us to that, to where we are now, we had to beat our biggest rivals. So, and this is why I've waited to now to mention this about the cup final. Because I don't get too carried away. I don't overlook things. You've got to look for what things are. We're in another cup final, folks. There's no any other, apart from St Mirren, none of the other teams are, you look forward to Christmas, boys. Aye. No, I'm looking forward to the cup final, folks, before we even get to Christmas. And what I would say is, depending on the outcome of that cup final, might be the determination of whether Santa's booed or cheered this year. So, I do think, personally, we will win the cup final. That was a small shot at humour. Might not have been done too well, right enough, but there's probably folk flinging stuff at their telly now. There's probably folk disagreeing with me now. And that's totally fine. That's totally fine. I look at the bigger picture. I look at, I try and find the good things in life, and I try and find the good things in things that, are with Celtic, and I'm no tuned into trying to find every single negative possible thing about the football club that I can possibly do. I can't be on board with the disliking of certain individuals at the football club and this and that, and I don't buy these narratives that these guys at the football club are trying to do. They don't like the Celtic fans, and they don't like this and they don't like that. I'll tell you what they don't like. They don't like people taking matters into their own hands, and they don't like people who don't, act in a way of decorum. But I guarantee you, if somebody manages to speak to Ross Desmond now, he probably regrets the way the AGM manifested. He probably totally regrets how it all happened. But it happened. And it's probably going to go down in history now as, one of the worst AGMs ever. Now, that's a governed thing. That's something that's got to happen. That's something there's a legality over that in terms of the AGM's got to happen, and it's got to happen in that manner. But the way that AGM happened will go down in history forever. Just touching back on the game, I never really seen a lot of the game, if I'm honest, because like I says, I had a busy weekend. What I did see of the game, I thought, not only were we under par, I was more alarmed at certain individuals' work rate within the game. And that, for me, folks, is where I have problem, right? I can understand people maybe having an off day at the office and everything else. But see, when it comes down to the fundamentals, and we watch Celtic to watch Celtic high energy and running, and that. See, when you see players just jogging and not doing the basics, not doing what they're supposed to be doing in the setup that you're trying to. I don't know about any views in the comments, guys, but I cannot buy into that at all. I really can't buy into that at all. I really do think, football's changed in that regards, because I would be all over someone in my team if I saw similar to Daisy Maeda when he played out in the right before he went through the middle, because I actually thought he made a better impact through the middle than he did out in the right. He was kind of non-existent out there. But see the way he was just jogging, and it just came across as everything was half-hearted. I would have been all over him, and I'd have been right in his face and giving him what for. I might not have been the best of football players in the world, but one thing I made sure I done was work hard for my team. And I made sure that I left the field knackered. And that was, if you're not having the best of games, my mantra was, can I still be a good teammate? How do I still affect this game when I can't do what I want to do in the game? Obviously, not all the time that's going to happen, but that was my dad. My dad taught me that when I was young. You need to still be a good teammate. It's not just about you. I used to hear that and still hear his voice talking to me. It's not just about you, son. You've got boys in that pitch with you. That's the way he used to talk to me. It's not just about you, son. They've got boys in that part with you. If you're not at it, and you need to make sure you're helping them. How can you help them? You need to find a way. So when I see players doing the basics and jogging and doing, that's the point that I start becoming frustrated. No, the way Celtic play, or what frustrates me is the fundamentals in the game. And and I'm up for a battle. See if it means that we need to start rolling the sleeves up and really going to town and really having to battle. I'm up for it, folks. I really am. Because like I says, no every season you're going to run every season and it's going to go smoothly. You're going to hit bumps in the road, and you need to know how to deal with the bumps in the road. Because if you can't deal with them, then you start to see other problems arising. And I don't see problems arising. I can see excitement arising now for Celtic. We've got a new manager coming in. We've got a new idea, a new fresh set of eyes, a guy that doesn't know Scottish football, which in my opinion, folks, is going to be an amazing thing because he's coming at things freshly. He's coming at things with a new idea, a different approach. He plays a totally different style of football to what we've seen over even the last 2 or 3 years at Celtic. So, and the way he defends really has me intrigued because his defensive shapes like 5-2-3 and, that's unbelievable. But his transitions and his rotations is something that I'm really interested to see in how he gets that going. But again, he's got problems, he's got issues, he's going to have to come in and work the guys who, that's fundamentally who we're left with. But again, he could come in and, Martin O'Neill's done it. He's come in and changed the team. He's come in and gave guys like Callum Osmond an opportunity. And, the boy was looking good and then he done his hamstring. Johnny Kenny scored a couple of goals. I know he was non-existent the other night, but again, you've got to then look at what the service was up to him. Johnny's having to drop deep in the field to get the ball, and that's not Johnny's game. Johnny likes to run channels and get in and try and get his body in, and he wasn't being able to do that the other night. So you look at Wilfred Nonsi might come in and, folks, he might see something in Yamada and he might go, I want to try you here, I want to do that. And before you know it, he's back in the team. Same with somebody put in a comment there about Bernardo. Again, that's a lad that's kind of drifted. Aye, Crazy Ice, I thought that was you. Excuse me. What's up with Bernardo, JP? He hasn't got a sniff on the Martin O'Neill. My understanding was, and this was before the Midtjylland game, was there was a bereavement in his family. Now, again, I don't know the ins and outs of that. I just know that there was some sort of bereavement in his family, but contractually, due to UEFA regulations, he had to come back into the team, which is why we saw him on the field for minutes against Midtjylland. It was down to a UEFA regulation because he's been registered there. He had to be there. So he couldn't get out of that one. But then I've read conflicting reports as well to say that he just keeps picking up niggly injuries. So, again, another really good player who, at the end of Brendan Rodgers, lost away in the team, wasn't getting a game, got a really bad injury last season and probably hasn't really recovered from it, let's be honest. So, it's going to be very interesting. As I said, folks, there's lots coming up on the channel. Jonathan Burns, Tommy Burns' son, will be joining us on the channel on Wednesday night coming. I'm not sure as yet at this point of being live with yous if Jonathan is going to be going live with us or, if he's going to be if we're doing that recorded. So if you stay tuned, we'll try and get something sorted over the next 24 hours. If you stay tuned on social medias, if not, I'll definitely try and update the YouTube channel with an update there to find out if Jonathan's going to be live with us or it'll be recorded and then put out afterwards. JP, can you see Nonsi use Teneke and Jota playing behind a lone striker? Maybe Balak Wisha. Well, I don't really know. I mean, again, you've just met. You're talking about a guy who, he's going to be like a brand new signing for the team. He's been out that long, Jota. That what a lift that'll give us, by the way. Whenever that comes back to play. I know that's going to be a wee while yet, but what a massive lift that gives, that gives a full squad. And aye, as I say, we don't know. I've got a wee comment, folks, that I've kept. I hope Ryan's still tuning in with us. I do apologise, mate, for taking a wee bit of time to get back to this. But Ryan M97, he says, JP, thoughts on MLS players in South American links? Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know when you tuned into tonight's channel, Ryan. But that's what I'm saying about Celtic have tapped into markets prior to recent times, So we know that it certainly wouldn't be alien to it. The South American one's an interesting one because we've ultimately went there already. You look at Bernabe and Juninho. Through the years, we've brought players in. Diego Laxalt. We've got a guy there now, and Marcelo Sarachi. Efren Suarez is another one. Jesus, I've seen his name linked with as being the manager of the team. He was only with us as a short period of time as a player. But, and then there's this kind of narrative that follows these guys that, they don't seem to do well in Scottish football and they can't do it and so on and so on. But it's, as I said, it's definitely food for thought. Listen, there'll be players in the MLS you'll know and that we're no privy to just now. It'll be similar to Big Ange going to Japan for players. There'll be guys there that we don't know. Alistair Johnson might know some of them. He played there. I know he's been over here for the last wee while, but unless his memory's terrible, then I would imagine he'll know some of the players. I couldn't tell you, mate. I couldn't tell you. Again, I don't even know how, how concrete that interest even is. I know the lads you're talking about as well. But I could not tell you. I don't know how concrete the even interest is. Again, it could be media driven, but it's Celtic's model, isn't it? If you go and look at the boy that you're chatting about there, that's Celtic's model. That's what Celtic do. That's why they have the model they've got. That's why we have to look at other options. But we're not in a position where we can go and spend 15, 20 million on a guy and bring him in for the Bundesliga. I know we've done it with Arnie Engels, but he's a young lad. Celtic fans are wanting guys in the ilk of, Nicholas Kuhn, guys like Jota, Daisy Maeda, so on and so on. Carter Vickers. That's the kind of players that Celtic want to target. And unfortunately, even over the last 2 years, folks, whether you want to admit this or not, and again, this isn't me trying to cover anything up because there's ways of doing it. Again, that's why we've got our model. Decisions have been made that things have went wrong for us and it's not happened. But the football world is changing, and Scottish football, unfortunately, also isn't a big draw when you look at that side of things. So this is why, you've mentioned that, Breezy Ice, the young lad Tassam, the under-21, these lads will come here and they'll put themselves in a shop window and then they'll go. That's what will happen. That's what these guys will do. I do think we've got some really good players in my team just now that have still to show even more. Guys like Nigrin, Iniacho, Sarachi. I love Engels. I do love him. I think he's got great physicality. I think he'll be a big focal point for Nancy's team. There you go. That's the shout I'm going to give you. And I do think, that will help. Yeah, he was a big helping hand, Kenneth. Big Victor, when he was over there. There's no doubt. But listen, AJ would have known who Celtic were. Again, Celtic aren't just a wee team for Scotland. I'm probably doing that a bit of a disservice when I say that, but Scottish football, I'm afraid, folks, just isn't the draw for aspiring players. Players want to be playing. They want to be playing against top quality. They want to be playing it. I mean, here's the way I can explain it is we sold Stuart Armstrong to Southampton. That you know, Gary Hooper left us and went to Norwich. You know, and these guys for the Celtic fans were superstars. You know, they had their own songs. They had a lot of good times. We sold Christopher Ayer to Brentford, a team who are a development team in the English Premier League. You know, but these guys that you're talking about, they were our top players at the time. Wanyama went to Southampton. Big Virgil van Dijk went to Southampton. Obviously, Virgil's then went on and made a great career for himself and he's moved upwards. Not many do that. Matt O'Reilly's went to Brighton, but now he's been loaned out to kind of Marseille because maybe the system under that manager maybe isn't working or something's no... They do, James. No, listen, there's no doubt about it, mate. Because it's no... They don't leave us and go to these teams to win medals. That's not the case. Of course they go for money. That's the only draw. But unfortunately, folks, that's where we are. These teams I mentioned, Southampton, Brighton, Brentford, Norwich, fan base and everything, they couldn't live with Celtic. Absolutely could not live with us. But they can live with us there with the Boodle because they have the riches of English football. And ultimately that's the task that we face. That's what we've continuously up against. So if that's me talking about that just now, could you imagine the transfer market? Can you imagine how the transfer market is? How do players and agents and everything, how are they viewing it? You know? They're looking at our league and they're looking at that pitch at Livingston, looking at Kilmarnock's pitch and they're going, Jesus, don't want to go there. Don't want to go there. But I'll tell you what. Ipswich just get promoted to the Premier League. They're playing against Arsenal at the Emirates. They're playing against Liverpool at Anfield. They're playing against Man United at Old Trafford. They're playing against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. They're playing against Man City at the Etihad. Where do you think they're going to go? So that's why I go back to it. Celtic need to be crafty in the way they do things, in the way that they try and do things. Because naturally, the financial gap elsewhere is getting bigger. But for Celtic to even have the money that they've got in their accounts, just being in Scottish football, is just remarkable. But again, that goes amiss. Because the Celtic fans see that as the Celtic board are hoarding money, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. What is that money for? But then you look at the things that the football club have done. You know, you look at the training standards. Look at the equipment, the foundations that they've got for Celtic for that to try and attract these young players in to train. They've got the best equipment. You heard Martin O'Neill talk about it the other day. You know, it's there you go, and that's what I'm talking about. Scotland is not the biggest draw. It's a very, very tough sell, mate. Very tough sell. But Celtic have a big infrastructure and they're trying to, they've got state-of-the-art facilities. They've just opened a new one in Barrowfield, where the gents team can go and train in the winter if it's bad outside and blah, 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 and it's covered in snow in Lennoxtown. And so there's a lot there that's still positive about the club, And, but for me, sometimes, that just goes amiss all the time because people are just tuned into, we want to see this, we want to see that, we want to see that, we want to see this. And I get, we all want to be better, we want to do this, we want to do that, and we want to do. Sometimes it's not possible every time. And there will be mistakes along the way. There will be learning curves along the way. There will be things that we all need to learn. But, you know, you've still got a cup final to look forward to. We've got a game in hand over Hearts. We could beat Hearts in December. Before you know it, we're back top of the league. Everything starts to, sing a new song. We've got a new manager coming through the door. The January window's about to open. He could have a couple of players lined up that are in his contact book, and it gets that started as well. Ryan's talking it, even Ryan on here's talking about it. There's a big change coming in the summer. There will be, because there'll be players moving on between January and the summer. Some of that Celtic side will be moving on. There's no doubt about it. Maeda's probably can't wait to hug my knee kicks in, because he's probably Offski. That's the way that's the way that's going. But the bread and butter for our football club is to try and win here and try and then build elsewhere. Sometimes, you're not going to get that right all the time. But there'll be seasons like last season, we got to the knockout phase of the Champions League, and we were, the last kick of a ball away for really putting the frighteners up a Bayern Munich side, who spent more than one guy than we can in our whole team. So that's the downside, James. Yeah, we playing Scottish football, mate. That's what I keep coming back to. That's the reality of it. And whether you want to, but can we be better? Of course we can. Listen, of course we can. I'm not for one saying we can't, but of course we can. We can do things. That's why we've got to be crafty. That's why, I'm being asked by other lads there about untapped markets and this, that. That's where Celtic can be better. But where I want to see us being better is when we know, or we've got a rough idea that Nicholas Kuhn's going to be leaving, right? Right, okay. So instead of Celtic spending 17 million quid on one guy that, we sell Nicholas Kuhn for 17 million. I don't want Celtic to go and spend 17 million quid, but what I want them to do is go and profile another player like Nicholas Kuhn, and maybe the mould of a £4 or £5 million player, a £6 million player, and go and shell that out and just go and get him in. Go and bring him in. Go and do it and bring him in. That's where I think Celtic can be better. 100%. And that's where the mistake was made in the summer, not to do that. So hopefully now, things become a wee bit more in harmony. Paul Tillsdale's worked with these guys, or he's certainly worked with the boy Ampadu. Terry Henry's sang the praises of the boy Nonce. I've listened to Nonce the way he speaks. He's certainly not and there's a great example in the comments here. James McKeon. Liverpool spent over 400 million quid in the summer. They're going through a really, really tough patch at the moment, And everybody's all quick now to pull the trigger and really, get rid of him. And Slot's got to go. And that guy won the league last season in his first shout in English Premier League, coming from Feyenoord. So, not everybody, listen, I get it. People react with emotion. People can react with different things. Not everybody can look at the bigger picture right away. But when you learn how to do it, and you learn how you can go about it, then it's easy to see things a different way. And I get everybody's got different views and opinions on things. And yeah, he was a £3 million signing, but I know what you're saying in terms of I know what you're saying in terms of give people time. Tenecki, I feel, has shown that that moment on Saturday night where he curls that one just over the top of the bar. If that gets in, we're talking about a different game. St Mirren then have to change a game plan and everything else, and you're looking at things a totally different way. That one he curls in early on in the game on Saturday from the corner edge of the box. But Balikwisha, I think there's an argument there already to say that, we have still to see anything in this guy where what prompted any part of our scouting network or anybody in there to go and, accept that this guy was worth £5 million. So I understand what you're saying in terms of a wee bit more time. And he will get that, by the way, because we're just about to have a blank canvas for them all. That's what happens when a new manager comes in. It's a blank canvas. Now, I understand this guy's probably been watching Celtic from the outside, right? Some of these modern coaches and that do it, This guy will not be an umpty. He'll have watched Celtic. He's probably took time just now, knowing he was getting the job, to do it. So he'll probably have a fair idea of terms of who the personnel is and who's involved. But there's a guy there. There's a couple of comments here about Balikwisha just needing a new formation, this, that. Nonce could be the guy that brings this guy on to be a player. This guy could be unbelievable. In about 6 months' time, we double it up, by the way. Boy, Balikwisha's unreal. We just don't know what's around the corner. Is there going to be another surprise? Callum Osmond came from nowhere, and it was only through Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney bringing him into the team. So, yeah, is that the boy Ueda? The boy up top you're talking about for Feyenoord, the boy Ueda. He is a good player. But again, they've Feyenoord's got their own issues just now as well. There, and we're also meeting a side who's not all in harmony either. It will be a tough place to go. 100%. But again, we're going to a team that's not everything's in the right harmony, and things have I think the results have been very choppy for them. Whereas we're still trying to win games. We are still winning games. Martin O'Neill's won his 4 domestic games that he's took charge of. That's unbelievable, by the way. Now, whether people go, it wasn't just him, he's got shot. No, the boys that have come in and replaced Brendan Rodgers and John Kennedy and that, they've won their 4 domestic games that they've had to win. Whatever way they've done that, last kicks of the ball, or, Celtic didn't play well in this game, JP, or Celtic, it doesn't matter. The result doesn't matter. That's what I've always said. Winning's the hardest thing to do in football. We support a football club, guys, that make it look so easy. They've made it look, every bit as easy. Celtic, what they've given us as a fan base is a fairy tale. Steven Spielberg couldn't come up with a better plot line to make a movie out of it. Honestly, it's a fairy tale. You never see it anywhere else in football. The continued domination, and then there's an element of that. It just gets taken for granted. Oh, Celtic should be doing that. Well, that seems to be the kind of modern opinion. Well, no, it's not as easy as that. Go in the dressing room and tell them that. You'll get your arse booted back out the door. It's not as easy as that. You get in there and bust your buzz and really work hard and really dedicate your craft and, really make big changes and big lifestyle changes in your life to play at that top level. You want to play in the Champions League, you've got to live your life a certain way to go and be able to compete at that level. It's dead easy for fans at the side to go, oh, we should be doing this or we should be doing that. Aye. Well, when you've had experience at the other side of the white line, it's not as easy as... things are easier said than done. That's like me sitting here now saying I should be a millionaire. I'm not. So, and far from it. So, what I would say is there's always room for improvement in any football way of life and in any sort of thing that we do, you know. But yeah, I think there's a very exciting period coming for the football club in the not too distant future, starting with the new manager, and then we can build to a new journey from then. Because this guy will want to do things his own way. And if he's bringing 4 or 5 members of staff, there's a sign there to say that, you know, I've heard this, John Kennedy get put on every manager that was coming through, though. Well, John Kennedy's not there anymore. This guy's allowed to bring his own team with him. So whoever dealt with this guy from the Celtic hierarchy, whether it be Dermot Desmond, Michael Nicholson, Peter Lawwell, there must be a full belief and backing there that this guy's going to come in with his own compadres and be able to work properly. Yeah, I did see that. I did see that as well. Peter Martin also mentioned that Breezy. So yeah, but again, guys, that's all I have time for on this fine Monday evening with yous. Thank you very much for everybody that stayed with me. Thank you very much for all your comments. Thank you very much for all your opinions. We do value everything on this channel. Myself and the lads are ever so grateful to have the opportunity to do these chats. Come on and have a chat with you. That's why we do ask for everybody that does come across the channel, if you can, just hit the like button and subscribe. It does help the channel go a long way. I did mention earlier tonight, if you have joined us and you're just about to find out that we're finishing up, Jonathan Burns, Tommy Burns' son Jonathan, will be joining us on Wednesday evening to give us the lowdown on the new manager incoming. So we will get a better understanding. I've done a bit of due diligence on Wilfred Nancy, as I said, but when it's a guy like Jonathan, then you sit up and you take notice, because Jonathan's doing his work over in the MLS himself, so he's worked very closely beside this guy and he knows what he's all about. And Jonathan's words prior to our chat on Wednesday so far, the word they used was top. This is what this guy is. So he did say it will be a challenge for him, and Jonathan said he's more than ready for that challenge, in his opinion. So I'm interested to know, more about his character, more about the way he's going to be, how he's going to be, fitting into the group. And then it would be more interesting to see how the group take to him as well. And I would imagine there's a helping hand there already with Alistair Johnson, because he used to be his gaffer. So yeah. James, is that comment directed at me? Were you talking about me, mate, asking me age, Emma? Thanks very much. Thank you. As I say, mate, I try and do my best. I try and be as balanced as I can. I try and give a decent point of view. And I try and get as much interaction from yourselves as much as I can. That's why I drop in comments. I bring up comments. I talk about things. Chris Murray, will it be live or pre-recorded, JP? We don't know yet. We're trying to get, again, because of the time difference over there, they are 5-6 hours behind us. So we are trying to get answers for that question. I think the last time we did it, Jonathan was live with us. That's in the archives, that video. The last time Jonathan was on here. He talks about his career and his dad and everything else. But the last time Jonathan spoke to us on this channel, I'm sure we done it live. It was me and Ryan that was on it with him, and it was live. I'm sure, and it was during the day podcast. So yeah, but we will try and get an answer. There you go, and thank you for. It shows you how long people have been watching us, because that was a while ago. So yeah, we will. But that's what I'm saying. But about being honoured, about having supporters of the channel and comments and regular viewers, because that Night Slip Wednesday coming, and it wouldn't be possible if you guys weren't a part of it. This new adventure we're about to go into with the 32 Counties Bar as well. We will be recording in there this week as well, so that'll be coming out as well on the channel. And like I says, there's loads of new things happening with this channel for content and everything happening. So yeah, that's not possible without you guys in the comments. So please, if you can, if you're new to the channel, hit a like and subscribe. It's totally free. We don't charge, and we will be indebted to you forever. But for the time being, folks, enjoy the rest of what's left of your Monday evening. Take care. Hail. And we'll see you all again in the next one. Bye-bye.
Sets up Larsson here. Larsson. Oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! O'Reilly. How about that for a pass? Jota! How about that for a finish? That is Jota for you! In for Henrik Larsson. And Moravcik! His first goal for Celtic! Here is Shunsuke Nakamura! Exquisite!